My phone didn't just slip. It practically dove out of my soapy hands like it was trying to escape my life, hit the edge of the porcelain tub with a sickening crack, and splashed right into the bubbles. No, no, no. I scrambled up, water sloshing everywhere, my heart doing a double beat. I fished the device out, wiping the suds off the screen with frantic, trembling fingers. It was brand new. I was still paying off the monthly installment plan on this thing. If it was dead, I was dead. The screen flickered. Thank God. It was still alive. But it wasn't just alive. It was making a call. The water must have triggered a ghost touch, or maybe my clumsy thumb had mashed the screen when I grabbed it. I squinted through the steam rising from the bath. It wasn't calling Sophie, my best friend. It was calling a contact saved simply as, "Do not answer." I froze. That business card. The matte black one I'd found in the elevator of my office building 3 days ago. I had saved the number out of pure curiosity because who puts "do not answer" on a business card? I meant to delete it. I really meant to delete it. The screen connected before I could hit the red button. The blurry, pixelated darkness cleared up instantly. High-definition video. Crystal clear audio. And staring back at me wasn't a voicemail box or a customer service bot. It was a man. And I was naked. I screamed a short, strangled sound that echoed off the bathroom tiles, and clutched the towel I had wrapped around my hair, trying to pull it down to cover my chest. But in my panic, I just dropped the phone face up on the bath mat. Great. Now the camera was pointing straight up at the ceiling, catching the steam, the edge of the tub, and me, frantically sliding down into the water until the bubbles covered my chin. Hello. The voice coming from the phone speaker was deep. Like vibrations in the floorboards deep. It wasn't angry. It was calm. Terrifyingly calm. I couldn't breathe. I reached a wet hand out to tap and call, but my finger hovered over the screen. The man on the screen wasn't looking away. He was sitting in a dimly lit office, surrounded by dark wood and shadows. He was wearing a suit, not the boring gray ones my old boss wore, but a deep, rich wine color that looked like it cost more than my entire student loan debt. His hair was black, swept back, but falling slightly over his forehead, and his eyes were sharp, dark, and locked onto the camera. He didn't look like a telemarketer. He looked like the kind of man who owned the building the telemarketers worked in, and then fired them all for breathing too loud. I'm so sorry, I squeaked, my voice cracking. Wrong number. Water. Accident. He didn't hang up. He leaned forward, resting his chin on a hand that sported a thick silver ring on the pinky finger. He squinted slightly, not in confusion, but in amusement. You have a lot of bubbles, he said. His accent was slight, wrapping around the vowels in a way that made my stomach flip. I'm hanging up now, I yelled, finally stabbing the red button with my wet finger. The screen went black. I sat there in the cooling water, staring at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Who was that? Why didn't he yell? Why did he just watch? I needed to block that number. Immediately. But as I unlocked the phone, a text message banner slid down from the top of the screen. Sender, do not answer. Message, you missed a spot. I threw the phone across the room into the pile of laundry. If you are enjoying the chaos of my life so far, and you want to see if I survive this embarrassment, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel right now. Seriously, hit the button, because I'm going to need all the moral support I can get for what happens next. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that wine-colored suit and those dark hunter eyes. I spent 3 hours on a mindfulness app trying to breathe through the anxiety, but even the soothing rain sounds couldn't wash away the feeling that I had just poked a sleeping dragon. The next morning, I was a wreck. I chugged 3 espressos and tried to cover the bags under my eyes with the expensive concealer I'd bought after seeing it in a viral TikTok. It didn't help. I looked like a raccoon that had seen a ghost. I walked into the lobby of Parker & Associates, the marketing firm where I worked as a junior assistant. Usually, the lobby was quiet, just the sound of typing and the coffee machine hissing. Today, it was buzzing. People were huddled in groups, whispering. Did you hear? Sophie grabbed my arm the second I cleared the security gates. She looked impeccable as always, wearing a blue power suit that made me feel even more like a mess. The buyout happened. It's official. What buyout? I asked, my brain still foggy from the lack of sleep. I thought that was just a rumor. Nope. The contracts were signed last night. Old Man Parker is out. The new owners are bringing in their own CEO to restructure everything. Sophie lowered her voice, looking around nervously. They say it's a Korean conglomerate. Kang Enterprises. My stomach dropped. Kang. The contact name in my phone. Do not answer, Kang. No, I whispered. It's a common name. It's like Smith. It's a coincidence. What are you mumbling about, Nia? Sophie adjusted her glasses. Anyway, look sharp. The new CEO is doing a walkthrough in 5 minutes. If he doesn't like your vibe, you're out. They're cutting the fat from the creative department. I wasn't fat. I was essential. I was the one who fixed the printer when it jammed. I was the one who knew how to use the new AI copywriting tools when the senior partners couldn't figure out their passwords. I was valuable. I hurried to my desk, straightened my blouse, and tried to look busy. I opened a spreadsheet and started randomly highlighting cells. Ding! The elevator doors at the end of the hall opened. The whispering stopped instantly. The silence that swept across the open-plan office was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. 3 men walked out. 2 were huge, bodyguards in black suits, wearing earpieces. They scanned the room like they were expecting a sniper in the potted plants. And then, he walked out. The air left my lungs. It was him. The man from the bath. He looked even taller in real life. He was wearing a different suit today, a midnight blue 3-piece that fit him so perfectly it looked like a second skin. He walked with a predator's grace, smooth and silent. His face was unreadable, cold as ice, his dark eyes scanning the rows of terrified employees. Mr. Kang, our HR director, Brenda, squeaked, trotting beside him like a nervous poodle. This is the creative team. We have some of the brightest minds in the city here. He didn't look at her. He just kept walking, his gaze sliding over people like they were furniture. I ducked my head, staring intently at my computer screen. Please don't see me. Please don't see me. I look different with clothes on. I have my hair in braids today, not a towel. He won't know. I could hear his footsteps coming closer. Click. Clack. Click. Clack. They stopped. Right in front of my desk. I could smell his cologne, something expensive, like sandalwood, leather, and rain. My hands were shaking so bad I had to grip my mouse until my knuckles turned white. You. His voice was low, barely a whisper, but it carried through the silent office. I slowly looked up. Kang Tae-Joon was looking down at me. Up close, he was devastatingly handsome, but in a way that made you want to run away. His skin was flawless, pale and smooth, but there was a small scar just above his left eyebrow that hinted at violence. He wasn't smiling. His face was a mask of indifference. But his eyes were dancing with that same amusement I saw last night. Mr. Kang, I managed to choke out. Welcome to the team. Brenda rushed forward. This is Nia Wallace. She's a junior assistant. She handles our social media scheduling and the basic AI prompts for the copy. Tae-Joon ignored Brenda completely. He leaned down, placing one hand on my desk. The silver ring on his pinky finger glinted under the fluorescent lights. He was close enough that I could see the individual lashes framing his dark eyes. Nia, he tested my name, rolling it around his mouth like he was tasting it. You look dry today. Sophie, sitting at the desk next to me, choked on her coffee. My face went hot. I felt the heat rising up my neck, burning my cheeks. He knew. He absolutely knew. I prefer to be dry at work, sir, I whispered, terrified that he would say something about bubbles or singing in front of the entire company. He held my gaze for a second longer, the tension stretching tight between us. Then, he straightened up, adjusting his cuffs. HR, he barked, not looking back at Brenda. Yes, Mr. Kang? Fire my executive assistant. Gasps rippled through the room. His current assistant, a man who had come with him, looked shocked. Sir, the man stammered. You talk too much, Tae-Joon said coldly. And you have slow reflexes. He pointed a long finger at me without looking. She's promoted. Move her things to the top floor. Immediately. Me? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. But I don't know how to be an executive assistant. I'm a creative. I write captions. Tae-Joon turned back to me. The ghost of a smirk touched his lips. You're clumsy, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You lack situational awareness. And you have terrible judgment in who you call. He took a step closer, dropping his voice so only I could hear. But you owe me, Nia. You invaded my privacy last night. Now I own yours. Be in my office in 10 minutes. Don't make me wait. He turned on his heel and walked away, his bodyguards flanking him like shadows. I sank back into my chair, my legs turning to jelly. Sophie rolled her chair over, her eyes wide behind her glasses. Girl, she whispered, grabbing my arm. What does he mean last night? What did you do? And why is the scary mafia-looking billionaire staring at you like he wants to eat you for dinner? I think I whispered back, staring at his retreating back. I think I just sold my soul to the devil. And he wears a really nice blue suit. I packed my box of things with trembling hands. My succulent plant, my framed photo of my cat, my stash of emergency chocolate. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like a funeral procession. The top floor used to be Old Man Parker's territory, dusty, smelling of old paper and cigars. When the doors opened, it was transformed. It was sleek, modern, and intimidating. Glass walls, black marble floors, abstract art that looked like slashed canvas. It smelled like him. I walked to the massive double doors at the end of the hall. I knocked. Enter. I pushed the doors open. Tae-Joon was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out over the city skyline. He had taken off his suit jacket and draped it over a chair. His white dress shirt was crisp, fitting tightly across his broad shoulders. He turned around. He was holding a glass of amber liquid, whiskey probably. Close the door, he commanded. I pushed the heavy wood until it clicked shut. The sound echoed in the massive room. We were alone. Sit, he gestured to the chair opposite his massive desk. I sat, clutching my box of belongings on my lap like a shield. Why me? I asked, finding a sudden burst of courage. You could have hired anyone. A professional. Someone who doesn't slip in tubs. Tae-Joon walked around the desk, leaning against the edge of it, towering over me. He took a slow sip of his drink. I have enemies, Nia, he said, his voice losing the corporate edge and dropping into something darker, more dangerous. People who want to know my schedule. My contacts. My weaknesses. They plant spies in my company. They pay off professionals. He set the glass down. But you. He looked at me, his eyes softening just a fraction. You are chaotic. Unpredictable. No spy would be stupid enough to FaceTime a target naked. I wasn't naked. I lied, my voice high. I had bubbles. Semantics, he waved a hand dismissively. The point is, you are transparent. I can read you. And right now, I need someone I can trust not to stab me in the back because they are too busy trying not to trip over their own feet. I feel insulted and complimented at the same time, I muttered. Good. That's how I manage. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone. Not his. My phone. I patted my pockets. Empty. He must have swiped it from my desk when he leaned over me. Hey. I reached for it. He pulled it back out of reach. I installed a tracking app. For your safety. And so I know where you are at all times. Being my assistant is not a 9 to 5 job, Nia. It is a lifestyle. You belong to the company now. To the company? I asked. He leaned in close, his face inches from mine. To me. There was a moment of silence where the air felt charged, electric. I looked at his lips, then quickly up to his eyes. He noticed. "Here is your first task," he said, handing my phone back. His fingers brushed mine, and a jolt of static electricity sparked between us. Neither of us pulled away. "Order lunch. I'm hungry. And if you order anything with kale, I will fire you. What do you want?" I asked, breathless. "Surprise me." He turned back to the window. "Oh, and Nia?" "Yes, Mr. Kong. Get a better phone case. One with a grip." I scrambled out of his office, my heart racing so fast I thought I might pass out. I leaned against the cool wall of the hallway, clutching my chest. This wasn't just a job. This was a trap. And the worst part? I didn't want to leave. I looked at my phone. The tracking app was running in the background. A small red dot pulsing on the map. He was watching. I opened a food delivery app, one of those new ones that uses AI to predict cravings based on weather, and typed in Korean spicy stew. If he wanted to play with fire, I'd give him fire. Little did I know, the fire was already burning, and I was standing right in the center of it. The smell of spicy seafood noodle soup, jampong filled the sleek, sterile hallway of the executive floor. It felt wrong, like bringing a chaotic street festival into a library. I balanced the takeout bag in one hand and my keycard in the other, taking a deep breath before pushing open the heavy double doors to Tae-Joon's office. I had used Gourmet Dash, that new premium delivery app everyone was talking about, because they promised to get the food here in under 20 minutes. If I kept a mafia boss waiting for his lunch, I felt like I might end up as the lunch. "Delivery," I announced, trying to sound cheerful. Tae-Joon didn't look up from his computer. He was typing furiously, his brow furrowed. The jacket of his midnight blue suit was draped over his chair, and he had rolled up his sleeves. "Put it on the table," he commanded, not breaking his rhythm. I set the food down on the low-glass coffee table in the center of the room. I started unpacking the containers, the blackened noodles, the bright red spicy soup, the yellow radish pickles. The steam rose up, carrying the scent of chili oil and garlic. He finally stopped typing. He swiveled his chair around and stared at the food, then at me. "I told you to surprise me," he said, standing up. "I didn't think you would try to assassinate me with heartburn." "It's the best spot in the city," I countered, handing him a pair of wooden chopsticks. "Unless you can't handle the spice? I can get you some mild porridge if your stomach is too sensitive." His eyes narrowed. A challenge. I realized instantly that I shouldn't challenge a man who probably had people removed for less. But the corner of his mouth twitched. "Sit," he said. "You eat too." "Oh, I already ate a granola bar." "Sit." I sat. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The only sound was the slurping of noodles and the clinking of chopsticks. I watched him carefully. He took a massive bite of the spicy seafood soup. This stuff was nuclear level. I usually cried when I ate it. He swallowed. He didn't flinch. He didn't reach for water. He just took another bite. "It's acceptable," he said, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "Acceptable?" "It's delicious," I muttered, struggling with a particularly long noodle. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Not the sleek smartphone he usually used, but a burner phone sitting on the edge of the desk. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He picked it up. "Speak." I tried to look busy with my noodles, but I was listening. "When?" Tae-Joon asked. His voice was like grinding gravel. "No. Let them bleed a little longer. If they want the territory near the port, they have to pay the tax." "Bleed? Territory? Port?" I froze, a piece of yellow radish hanging from my chopsticks. I was sitting across from a man discussing a turf war while eating takeout noodles. He hung up and tossed the phone onto the sofa. He looked at me, catching my terrified expression. "Logistics," he said simply. "Shipping disputes." "Right. Shipping," I squeaked. "Very messy business, shipping." He sighed, leaning back against the sofa. He reached up and loosened his tie, unbuttoning the top button of his white shirt. That's when I saw it. Just a glimpse. A flash of ink creeping up from his collarbone, disappearing under the fabric of his shirt. It looked like scales. Dark, intricate scales. I stared. I couldn't help it. "See something you like?" he asked, his voice low. I snapped my eyes up to his face. "No. I mean, yes. I mean, is that a tattoo?" He touched the spot on his neck, his fingers lingering there. "A mistake from my youth. Like your phone call." "I feel like my phone call was less permanent than a giant neck tattoo," I mumbled. "You'd be surprised what sticks with you, Nia." He stood up abruptly, the moment of vulnerability gone. "Clean this up. And check my schedule for Friday. I need to clear the evening." I scrambled to clean up the cartons, my heart doing that double beat thing again. For the next 2 weeks, I lived in a state of constant, high-functioning anxiety. Being Kang Tae-Joon's assistant wasn't just about booking flights and answering emails. It was about decoding his life. I realized quickly that his calendar was a code. Golf with Mr. Lee meant a sit-down negotiation with a rival boss. Site inspection meant he was going to threaten someone who wasn't paying up. Private therapy meant he was actually going to the gun range to blow off steam. I tried to organize it the only way I knew how. Color coding. I walked into his office one morning, armed with a stack of neon sticky notes and my tablet. "We need to talk about your schedule," I said. He looked up from a stack of documents. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his hair was slightly messy, which only made him look more attractive, which was annoying. "What about it?" "It's a disaster," I said, putting my tablet on his desk. "I've organized it. Pink is for actual legitimate business meetings. Green is for shipping logistics. Yellow is for personal time, which you have 0 of, by the way. You need to sleep." He stared at the rainbow-colored calendar on the screen. "You color-coded my criminal empire?" he asked, deadpan. "I color-coded your logistics," I corrected him. "And I downloaded that Zen Focus app on your phone. It blocks notifications between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. You were sending emails at 4:30 this morning. That's illegal in my book." He looked at me for a long time. I thought he was going to fire me. Instead, he let out a short, sharp laugh. It was the first time I'd heard him really laugh. It sounded rusty, but genuine. "Pink and green," he shook his head. "If my father could see this, he would rise from his grave just to shoot me." "Well, tell him to make an appointment. I'll put him in the orange category." He smirked. "You're dangerous, Nia Wallace." "In a very stupid way." "Thank you, sir." The intercom on his desk buzzed. It was security. "Mr. Kang? A package for you. From Director Choi." Tae-Joon's smile vanished instantly. The ice was back. "Send it up." 2 minutes later, a security guard brought in a sleek black envelope with gold lettering. Tae-Joon ripped it open. He pulled out a thick card. "What is it?" I asked, stepping closer. "An invitation," he said, his voice tight. "The annual Emerald Gala. Choi is hosting it this year." "Is that bad?" "It's a power play. If I don't go, I look weak. If I go alone, I look isolated. If I take a security team, I look paranoid." He tossed the card onto the desk. "I need a distraction. Someone who looks harmless. Someone who makes me look domesticated." He slowly turned his eyes toward me. "No," I said, backing away. "No, no, no. I am not going to a mafia prom. I trip over flat surfaces, Tae-Joon. I will spill wine on a warlord and start World War III. It's a charity gala, Nia. For orphans," he lied smoothly. I knew he was lying, but he stood up and walked around the desk, backing me toward the door. "And you are my assistant. It's in your job description. Other duties as assigned. I don't have a dress." I grasped at straws. "I've already arranged that." He checked his watch. "You have an appointment at Lumiere Boutique in 1 hour. Use the company card. Buy something that says, 'I am expensive and untouchable.'" "And what will you be wearing?" I asked, defeated. "Something that matches you." He stopped inches from me. The smell of his sandalwood cologne filled my head. He reached out and tucked a loose braid behind my ear. His fingers brushed my neck, sending a shiver straight down my spine. Don't be late, Nia. Tonight is dangerous. I need you to be perfect. I can't be perfect, I whispered, my voice trembling. Then just be breathtaking, he said softly. That will be enough. He opened the door for me. Go. And take the black car. The driver is waiting. I walked out in a daze. I was going to a gala with a mafia boss. I was going to let him dress me up like a doll and parade me in front of his enemies. I should have quit. I should have run. But as I sat in the back of the plush leather seats of the company Mercedes, watching the city blur by, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to run. I wanted to see him look at me the way he looked at that soup. Like he wanted to devour me. If you want to see the dress that makes a mafia boss lose his mind, make sure you keep watching. Because what happens at this party changes everything. The boutique was terrifying. The sales assistants looked like supermodels and judged my shoes the moment I walked in. But when I flashed the Black Kong Enterprises credit card, their attitudes flipped faster than a politician during election season. Mr. Kong called ahead, the manager purred, leading me to a private dressing room. He specified the color palette. Jewel tones. To complement your skin. She pulled out a dress that made me gasp. It was emerald green silk, floor-length, with a slit that went dangerously high up the thigh. The back was completely open, draped with thin gold chains. It was elegant, sexy, and screamed money. I put it on. I looked in the mirror. For the first time in my life, I didn't see the clumsy assistant. I saw a woman who could stand next to a king. Or a dragon. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Sophie, OMG, are you alive? I saw the black car take you. Send location. Me, I'm at a dress fitting. I think I'm Cinderella. But the prince carries a Glock. Sophie, get the bag SAS. And the Glock. I laughed, but my nerves were fraying. 3 hours later, I was ready. Hair swept up in an elegant bun with loose tendrils framing my face, gold makeup shimmering on my eyelids, and heels that cost more than my rent. The car dropped me off at the entrance of the Grand Hotel. The paparazzi were screaming, cameras flashing like lightning. A red carpet stretched up the stairs. And there he was, waiting for me at the top. He wasn't wearing the blue suit. He was wearing a black tuxedo with a velvet jacket that absorbed the light. His bow tie was undone, hanging loose around his neck, a deliberate style choice that made him look effortlessly dangerous. When I stepped out of the car, the noise of the crowd seemed to fade. Tae-Joon turned. He saw me. He actually stopped breathing. I saw his chest freeze. His eyes traveled from my shoes, up the slit in the dress, over the gold chains, and locked onto my face. The cold mask he always wore cracked. He walked down the stairs to meet me, ignoring the cameras. He didn't offer his arm. He took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. His grip was tight, possessive. You're late, he whispered, but there was no bite in his voice. Only heat. Traffic, I lied. And I had to figure out how to tape myself into this dress so I don't flash the mayor. He leaned close, his lips brushing my ear. If you flash the mayor, I'll have to gouge his eyes out. So please, be careful. You look nice too, I said, trying to steady my breathing. I know. He pulled me closer, his hand resting on the small of my back, his thumb rubbing circles against my bare skin. Stay close to me, Nia. Tonight, we are putting on a show. Make them believe you belong to me. I think, I whispered, looking into his dark eyes, that won't be very hard to fake. We turned and walked into the lion's den together. The ballroom smelled of money, expensive perfume, lilies, and the distinct metallic tang of fear masked by champagne. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hung from the ceiling, casting a glittering light over hundreds of people who were all smiling with their teeth, but not their eyes. I gripped Tae-Joon's arm so hard I was probably cutting off his circulation. He didn't flinch. He walked through the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea. People stepped aside, dipping their heads in respect or terror. Breathe, he murmured, his lips barely moving. You're turning blue. It clashes with the dress. I hate this, I whispered back through a frozen smile. Everyone is looking at us. They are looking at you, he corrected. And they are wondering why the devil brought an angel to hell. I flushed. That's a terrible pickup line. It wasn't a pickup line. It was a tactical observation. We reached the center of the room. A waiter passed by with a tray of champagne. I reached for one, but Tae-Joon's hand gently intercepted mine. Sparkling water, he told the waiter. He looked at me. You are clumsy enough when you're sober. I'm not risking drunk Nia in this crowd. Spoil sport, I muttered, taking the water. Kong. A booming voice cut through the chatter. Tae-Joon stiffened. His muscles turned to stone under my hand. A man approached us. He was older, with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been carved out of granite. He was flanked by two younger men who looked less like assistants and more like they strangled people for cardio. Director Choi, Tae-Joon said. His voice was polite but freezing cold. I didn't think you'd show, Choi sneered, his eyes flicking to me. He looked me up and down in a way that made me want to take a shower. And you brought a pet? How charming. This is Ms. Wallace, Tae-Joon said, his hand tightening on my waist. My executive assistant. And she is not a pet. She is the reason my company's stock rose 15% this quarter. I blinked. That was a lie. I mostly just posted memes on the company Twitter. Choi laughed, a dry, hacking sound. Stock prices. Cute. While you play businessman, Kong, the real world is moving on. The port deal, it's shifting. Is it? Tae-Joon asked, his tone bored. I heard the port authority was having regulatory issues. Choi's smile vanished. We should talk. In private. The VIP lounge. 10 minutes. He walked away, his goons trailing him. Tae-Joon let out a breath I didn't know he was holding. He looked down at me. Stay here. Do not move. Do not talk to anyone. Especially anyone with a neck tattoo. Where are you going? Panic flared in my chest. To handle business. If I'm not back in 15 minutes. He paused, checking his watch. Call the number I saved as cleanup in your phone. Cleanup. Is that a maid service or a hitman? Just call it. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I stood there, clutching my sparkling water, feeling like a deer on a highway. I counted the minutes. 5, 7, 10. I needed to pee. Badly. Nerves did that to me. I looked around. I saw a sign for the restrooms down a long, velvet-draped corridor. Do not move, he said. But surely a bathroom break didn't count? I'd be back in 2 minutes. I hurried down the corridor. It was quieter here, away from the music. I found the ladies' room, did my business, checked my makeup, and stepped back out. That's when I heard voices. They were coming from a slightly open door across the hall. A service entrance. Tonight. After the speech. When he gets in the car. I froze. I knew that voice. It was one of Choi's goons. The brakes are already cut, another voice said. He won't make it past the first turn on the highway. My blood ran cold. The brakes. They were talking about Tae-Joon's car. I had to warn him. I turned to run back to the ballroom, but my heel caught on the plush carpet. I stumbled, my hand hitting a vase on a side table. Crash. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet hallway. The voices stopped. The door flew open. 2 men stepped out. They saw me. They saw the terror in my eyes. The girl, one of them growled. She heard. Grab her. I didn't think. I ran. I hiked up my dress and sprinted back towards the ballroom. I could hear heavy footsteps pounding behind me. Don't trip. Don't trip. Please God, don't trip. I burst back into the main room. The lights, the noise, the people, it was disorienting. I scanned the crowd frantically. Where was he? I saw him. He was standing near the bar, looking at his watch, his face dark with worry. Tae-Joon. I screamed, but the music drowned me out. The men were behind me. I could feel them closing in. They wouldn't grab me here, in public. But they would wait. They would trap us. I had to get to him. But Choi was standing between us, blocking the path, talking to the mayor. If I ran up screaming about murder, Choi would spin it. He'd say I was crazy. He'd have security remove me. I needed a distraction. A big one. I looked at a waiter passing by with a tray of red wine. I'm sorry, I thought. I ran straight at the waiter. Look out! I yelled, feigning a trip. I collided with him. The tray went flying. 4 glasses of expensive Cabernet Sauvignon launched into the air. Splash! Right all over Director Choi's white suit. The music screeched to a halt. The room went silent. Choi stood there, dripping red liquid like blood, his face turning purple with rage. You stupid girl, he roared, raising his hand to strike me. Before his hand could descend, a black blur moved between us. Tae-Joon caught Choi's wrist in midair. The sound of the impact was audible. Bone against bone. Don't, Tae-Joon said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. Touch her. He shoved Choi back. Choi stumbled, slipping on the wet floor. Tae-Joon grabbed my arm. Go. Now. We ran. We didn't walk. We sprinted through the stunned crowd, out the side exit, and into the cool night air. My car, he barked, pulling out his keys. No, I screamed, digging my heels in. Not your car. Not the Mercedes. He stopped, looking at me like I was insane. Nia, we have to go. They cut the brakes. I yelled, the tears finally spilling over. I heard them. In the hallway. They cut the brakes, Tae-Joon. He froze. He looked at the sleek black car waiting at the curb. Then he looked at me, his eyes wide with realization. He grabbed my hand again. Taxi stand. Now. We jumped into a yellow cab just as Choi's men burst out of the hotel doors. Drive. Tae-Joon slammed a wad of cash onto the partition. Just drive. The cab peeled away. I collapsed against the seat, shaking uncontrollably. The adrenaline was crashing. I felt like I was going to throw up. Tae-Joon didn't say a word. He watched out the back window until the hotel was out of sight. Then, slowly, he turned to me. He looked at my dress, stained with wine from the collision. He looked at my messy hair. He looked at my terrified face. You, he started, his voice rough. You threw red wine on the most dangerous man in the city. I panicked, I sobbed. I didn't know what else to do. He started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a laugh of pure disbelief. He leaned his head back against the seat, covering his face with his hands. You saved my life, he whispered. By being clumsy on purpose. He lowered his hands and looked at me. The intensity in his gaze made the air in the cab feel thin. Nia. He reached across the seat. He didn't grab my hand this time. He cupped my face. His thumb brushed away a tear on my cheek. Why? He asked. You could have run away. You could have saved yourself. I swallowed hard, looking at his lips. I didn't want you to get hurt. Who would pay for my therapy if you died? He smiled, a real, soft smile that reached his eyes. Drive to the penthouse, he told the driver. And take the long way. He didn't take his hand off my face. We sat there in the back of a dirty taxi, dressed in thousands of dollars of ruined clothes, staring at each other while the city lights blurred past. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was heavy, charged. You have wine on your neck, I whispered, reaching out to wipe a drop from his collar. He caught my wrist. He turned his head and kissed my palm. I don't care, he murmured against my skin. My breath hitched. We arrived at his building. He hustled me inside, bypassing the front desk, straight to the private elevator. He scanned his palm. The doors closed, shutting out the world. As the elevator rose, the tension spiked. Tae-Joon, I said quietly. What happens now? Choi knows I know. I handled Choi, he said, his jaw tightening. Tonight, you stay with me. It's the only place you're safe. The elevator dinged. The doors opened to his penthouse. It was dark inside. He walked in, turning on a single lamp. He went straight to the bar and poured 2 drinks. His hands were shaking slightly. I stood by the window, looking out at the city. I felt exposed, vulnerable. He walked over to me, handing me a glass. "Drink," he said. "It will help." I took a sip. It burned, but it grounded me. "I need to shower," I said, looking down at my sticky dress. "I smell like a winery." "Guest room is on the left," he pointed. "There are fresh towels." I nodded and turned to leave. "Nia." I stopped. I turned back. He was standing in the shadows, his tie completely undone now, hanging loose. He looked dangerous and broken all at once. "That first night," he said quietly. "When you called me." "Yeah. I didn't just watch because it was funny." He took a step closer. I watched because, for a moment, I forgot who I was. I forgot about the deals, the threats, the blood. I just saw a girl singing in a bathtub. He was right in front of me now. "You are the only real thing in my life," he whispered. He reached out and touched the strap of my dress. His fingers grazed my shoulder. "Tae-Joon," I breathed. "Tell me to stop," he said, his voice ragged. "Tell me to walk away, Nia. Because if you don't." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I reached up and touched the dragon tattoo peeking out of his collar. He groaned a low, guttural sound and closed the distance. He kissed me. It wasn't like in the movies. It was desperate. Hungry. It tasted like whiskey and danger. His hands tangled in my hair, messing up the expensive bun. My hands gripped the lapels of his velvet jacket. He backed me up against the floor-to-ceiling window, the city lights creating a halo around us. The kiss deepened, becoming urgent. I felt the cold glass against my back and his heat pressing against my front. For a moment, the world didn't exist. No mafia. No hitmen. Just us. But then, his phone rang. It wasn't the business phone. It was the burner. He pulled back, breathing hard, his forehead resting against mine. "Don't answer it," I whispered. "I have to," he said, pain in his eyes. "If it's that phone, it's war." He stepped back, straightening his jacket, the mask sliding back into place. He picked up the phone. "Yeah," he answered. He listened for a second. His face went pale. He looked at me. The warmth was gone. "Pack your things," he said coldly. "What?" I blinked, confused by the whiplash. "Get out," he said, pointing to the door. "My driver is downstairs. He will take you to your apartment. You're fired." "Fired?" I stepped forward. "Tae-Joon, what are you talking about? 5 seconds ago you were kissing me." "That was a mistake," he spat. "You are a liability. I can't have someone like you around. You're clumsy. You're loud. And you almost got me killed tonight." "I saved your life," I screamed. "You made a scene," he roared back. "Go, before I have security drag you out." I stared at him, tears welling up again. I didn't understand. Why the sudden switch? Then I saw it. His hand, the one holding the phone, was shaking. He wasn't angry. He was terrified. "Fine," I whispered. "I'll go." I grabbed my purse and ran to the elevator. I didn't look back. If I had, I would have seen him collapse onto the sofa, burying his head in his hands as he listened to the voice on the other end of the phone. Smart move, Kang. If she had stayed, she would have been dead by morning. I cried the whole way home. The driver didn't say a word. He dropped me off at my shabby apartment building. I walked up the stairs, fumbling for my keys. I just wanted to crawl into bed and forget the last 2 weeks ever happened. I opened my door. The lights were off. But something was wrong. The air smelled different. It smelled like cheap cologne and cigarettes. I reached for the light switch. A hand grabbed my wrist from the darkness. "Hello, Nia," a voice hissed. A cloth was pressed over my mouth. It smelled sweet and chemical. Chloroform. I struggled, kicking and scratching. I tried to scream, but the darkness was swallowing me. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was a pair of shoes. Shiny, tacky alligator skin shoes. Director choice shoes. Tae-Joon had tried to push me away to save me. But he was too late. I woke up to the smell of rust and seawater. My head felt like it had been stuffed with cotton, and my mouth tasted like chemicals. I tried to move my hands, but they were tied behind my back. Zip ties. Tight. I blinked, trying to clear the blur from my vision. I was sitting on a cold concrete floor, my back against a metal pillar. The room was huge, a warehouse, by the looks of it. High ceilings, dust motes dancing in the beams of moonlight coming through the broken windows. She's awake. I froze. Director Choi was sitting on a wooden crate a few feet away, cleaning his fingernails with a small knife. He looked bored. His white suit was still stained with the red wine I had spilled on him. It had dried into an ugly brown splotch. Where am I? I rasped, my voice barely a whisper. Somewhere quiet, Choi said, standing up. Somewhere Kang won't find you. At least, not until I send him the pieces. My stomach lurched. He fired me, I said quickly, desperation clawing at my throat. We're nothing. He hates me. He kicked me out. Choi laughed. He walked over and crouched down in front of me. Do you think I'm stupid, Nia? I saw the way he looked at you at the gala. I saw him break my guard's wrist for getting too close. Kang doesn't care about anyone. But he cares about you. He reached out and stroked my cheek with the cold blade of the knife. I flinched, pressing my head back against the pillar. That's his weakness, Choi whispered. And I'm going to exploit it. He stood up and pulled out a phone. Let's give him a call, shall we? He dialed a number and put it on speaker. It rang once. Speak, Tae-Joon's voice came through. It sounded dead. Hollow. Kang, Choi smirked. I found something of yours. A little, loose end. There was a silence on the other end. A terrifying silence. If you touch her, Tae-Joon's voice was suddenly very soft, very low. I will burn this city to the ground. Bold words for a man who is currently losing his territory, Choi laughed. Here are the terms. You sign over the port rights. Tonight. Or I send your little girlfriend back to you in a box. Let me hear her, Tae-Joon demanded. Choi shoved the phone in my face. Tae-Joon. I screamed. Don't come. It's a trap. He has. Choi pulled the phone away and slapped me hard across the face. I tasted blood. You have 1 hour, Kang, Choi said into the phone. Come alone. Pier 4. Warehouse 9. If I see one cop, one bodyguard, she dies. He hung up. I spat blood onto the concrete floor. He won't come, I said, trying to sound brave. He's a businessman. He won't trade $1 billion port for an assistant. Choi just smiled. We'll see. He walked away, leaving me with 2 guards who looked like they ate raw meat for breakfast. I closed my eyes. Please, Tae-Joon. Stay away. Stay safe. But deep down I knew. He was coming. Tae-Joon stared at the phone in his hand. The screen had gone black, but he could still hear Nia's scream echoing in his head. He stood in the middle of his penthouse living room. It was silent. He walked over to the glass wall and looked out at the city lights. He had spent 10 years building this empire. He had sacrificed his youth, his morals, his soul. All for power. All for control. And now none of it mattered. Because somewhere out there, Nia was bleeding. He turned around. He walked past his computer. He walked past the contracts for the port deal. He walked straight to the hidden panel in his closet. He punched in the code. The panel slid open. Inside wasn't a suit. It was tactical gear. A black Kevlar vest. A holster. And a collection of knives that gleamed under the closet light. He stripped off his shirt. The dragon tattoo on his chest seemed to writhe as his muscles tensed. He put on a black compression shirt, strapped on the vest, and loaded a fresh magazine into his handgun. He didn't call security. He didn't call the police. This was personal. He grabbed his keys not for the Mercedes, but for the Ducati motorcycle he kept in the garage for emergencies. He walked out of the penthouse. He didn't look back. 58 minutes later. The warehouse was quiet. Too quiet. I was shivering. The temperature had dropped, and my arms were numb from the zip ties. Suddenly, the lights in the warehouse flickered. Then they went out completely. What the hell? One of the guards grunted. Check the breaker. You check it, the other one snapped. There was a sound. A soft thump. Like a sack of flour hitting the floor. Mike, the first guard called out. Mike, quit playing. Silence. Mike. The guard raised his flashlight, sweeping the beam across the darkness. The beam hit something hanging from the rafters. It was Mike. Unconscious. Swinging gently. The guard panicked. He pulled his gun. Boss. We have a... He didn't finish the sentence. A shadow moved behind him. Fast. Fluid. There was a sickening crunch. The guard dropped like a stone. And there, standing in the darkness, illuminated only by the moonlight filtering through the skylight, was Tae-Joon. He looked like a demon. He was dressed in all black, his face smeared with grease or soot. He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a knife. Tae-Joon. I sobbed. He looked at me. For a split second, the demon vanished, and I saw the man. His eyes were wide with relief. I'm here, he whispered. But he had forgotten one thing. Choi. A slow clap echoed from the shadows. Bravo. Choi stepped out from behind a stack of crates. He was holding a gun. And it was pointed right at my head. Drop the knife, Kong, Choi smiled. Or I paint the wall with her brains. Tae-Joon froze. He looked at Choi, then at me. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, he opened his hand. The knife clattered to the floor. Kick it away, Choi ordered. Tae-Joon kicked it. Good boy, Choi sneered. Now, on your knees. Tae-Joon hesitated. A king does not kneel. A dragon does not bow. Do it. Choi screamed, pressing the barrel of the gun into my temple. I whimpered. Tae-Joon's eyes locked onto mine. I'm sorry, his eyes said. He slowly sank to his knees. He put his hands behind his head. You see, Nia? Choi laughed, looking down at me. He does care. It's pathetic. Choi looked at Tae-Joon. Sign the papers, Kong. They're on the crate next to you. Tae-Joon looked at the papers. If I sign, he said, his voice calm, you let her go. Of course, Choi lied. I'm a man of my word. Tae-Joon reached for the papers. He picked up the pen. But as he leaned forward, he looked at me. He made a tiny motion with his head. Down. I didn't question it. I threw myself flat onto the concrete floor. At the exact same moment, Tae-Joon didn't sign. He flipped the heavy wooden crate. Bang! Choi fired. The bullet splintered the wood where Tae-Joon's head had been a second ago. Tae-Joon launched himself over the crate. He tackled Choi. They hit the ground hard. The gun skittered away across the floor. It was chaos. Fists flying. Grunts of pain. Tae-Joon was younger and stronger, but Choi was fighting dirty. He grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it in Tae-Joon's eyes. Tae-Joon roared, stumbling back, blinded. Choi scrambled for the gun. No! I screamed. I struggled to my feet, my hands still tied. I looked around for a weapon. Anything. I saw a rusty pipe on the ground. I couldn't pick it up. My hands were tied. So I did the only thing I could do. I ran at Choi. Just as his fingers touched the gun, I kicked it. I put all my soccer practice energy into that kick. The gun spun across the floor, sliding under a heavy pallet. Choi snarled and grabbed my ankle. He yanked. I fell hard, my chin hitting the concrete. You little bitch. He climbed on top of me, his hands going for my throat. I couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in my vision. Then, Choi was gone. Tae-Joon had him. He had grabbed Choi by the back of his suit and ripped him off me. He threw him against the metal pillar. Thud. Choi slumped down. Tae-Joon didn't stop. He punched him. Once. Twice. 3 times. Tae-Joon. I rasped, coughing. Stop. You'll kill him. Tae-Joon's fist hovered in the air. He was breathing heavily, his chest heaving. His knuckles were bloody. He looked at Choi, who was unconscious and bleeding. He looked at me. He dropped his hand. He walked over to me. He pulled a knife from his boot and cut the zip ties on my wrists. As soon as my hands were free, I threw my arms around his neck. I buried my face in his tactical vest. It smelled like sweat and gunpowder. "You came," I sobbed. "I told you," he whispered into my hair, his arms crushing me against him. "You belong to me. Nobody takes what is mine." He pulled back, cupping my face. "Are you hurt?" "I think I chipped a tooth," I managed a weak laugh. "And I definitely ruined my manicure." He let out a breathy laugh, resting his forehead against mine. "Let's go home," he said. He helped me up. We started walking towards the exit. Bang! The sound was deafening. I felt a sharp tug on my arm. Tae-Joon jerked violently. We turned around. Choi was awake. He had a second gun, a small ankle pistol. He was lying on the floor, smiling through bloody teeth. "I told you," Choi wheezed. "Nobody leaves." Tae-Joon stumbled. He looked down at his side. Blood was blooming on his black shirt, just below the vest. "Tae-Joon!" I screamed. He collapsed his knees. "No, no, no." I fell down beside him, pressing my hands against the wound. The blood was warm and sticky. There was so much of it. "It's okay," he whispered, his face turning pale. "It's just a scratch." "You're lying," I cried. "You're always lying." I fumbled for his phone in his pocket. I dialed the emergency number. Not 911. The cleanup number. "We need a medic." I screamed into the phone. "Pier 4. Now." He shot. I dropped the phone and looked at him. His eyes were fluttering closed. "Stay with me," I slapped his cheek lightly. "Tae-Joon, look at me. Don't you dare die on me. Who's going to approve the budget reports? Who's going to yell at me for buying kale?" He smiled weakly. "No kale." His head lolled back. "Tae-Joon." The sound of sirens filled the air. But they sounded so far away. I held him, rocking back and forth on the cold warehouse floor, while his blood soaked into my dress. The ride to the clinic wasn't in an ambulance. It was in a black helicopter that landed on the roof of the warehouse 3 minutes after I made the call. I didn't know helicopters could land that fast. I didn't know medical teams could look like SWAT members. They strapped Tae-Joon onto a stretcher, hooked him up to machines that beeped in a rhythm that matched my terrified heart, and pulled us into the sky. I held his hand the entire time. His skin was cold. Clammy. "Don't let go," I whispered over the roar of the rotors. "You don't get to leave me. Not after you ruined my favorite dress." He didn't squeeze back. We landed at the Aegis Private Medical Center. It wasn't a normal hospital. It was a fortress of glass and steel hidden in the hills outside the city. This was where the rich and dangerous went when they didn't want the police asking questions about bullet holes. They rushed him through double doors. I tried to follow, but a nurse with a face like a stone wall stopped me. "Sterile zone," she said firmly. "Wait here. He needs me." I cried, my hands covered in his blood. "He needs a surgeon," she corrected. "You need a shower and a sedative." The doors swung shut. And I was alone. I collapsed onto a leather chair in the waiting room. It was silent. Too silent. The air smelled of expensive lilies and antiseptic. I sat there for 4 hours. I watched the clock on the wall. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. Every second felt like a year. I replayed the moment in my head. The gunshot. The way he looked at me. "It's just a scratch." "Nia." I looked up. Sophie was running down the hallway, clutching her designer bag. She looked frantic. "Oh my God," she gasped, seeing me covered in dried blood and dirt. She dropped her bag and hugged me. "I tracked your phone. The news said there was a gang altercation at the docks. I thought you were dead." "He took a bullet for me, Sophie," I whispered into her shoulder. "He stood there and let himself get shot." "He loves you," Sophie said, pulling back and looking at me seriously. "Men like that don't take bullets for assistants. They take bullets for wives." I started to cry again. A doctor walked out. He was older, wearing pristine scrubs. I shot up. "Is he?" Mr. Kang is stable, the doctor said. I felt my knees give out, and Sophie had to catch me. The bullet missed the vital organs, but it nicked an artery. He lost a lot of blood. We used the new hemoclot technology to seal the wound faster, which saved him. He's in the recovery suite now. Can I see him? He's sedated. But yes, just for a minute. I walked into the room. It looked more like a hotel suite than a hospital room. There were silk sheets, a view of the city, and a massive TV. Tae-Joon was lying in the bed. He looked pale. So pale. His chest was wrapped in thick bandages, the white stark against his skin, and the dark ink of his dragon tattoo. He was hooked up to an IV drip and a monitor that hummed quietly. I walked over to the bed. I didn't touch him. I was afraid I'd break him. You idiot, I whispered, tears dripping off my chin. You big, dramatic, expensive idiot. I sat in the chair next to his bed. I didn't leave. I fell asleep holding his hand, my head resting on the mattress. I woke up to the feeling of fingers in my hair. I jerked awake. Tae-Joon was looking at me. His eyes were groggy, heavy with drugs, but they were open. You snore, he rasped. His voice was like sandpaper. I do not. I shot back, wiping drool from my mouth. Then I realized. You're awake. Unfortunately, he winced, trying to shift. I feel like I got hit by a truck. You got shot by a maniac, I corrected him. Don't move. The doctor said you need to rest. Do you want water? Do you want ice chips? Do you want me to call the nurse? I want you to stop talking, he groaned, closing his eyes. You are too loud for a hospital. I smiled. He was back. The grumpy, arrogant boss was back. I'm not in a hospital, he muttered. I hate this place. The food tastes like cardboard. It's a world-class medical facility, Tae-Joon. They probably serve organic kale broth. Exactly, he opened one eye. Take me home. What? No. You just had surgery. I have a medical wing at the penthouse, he said, trying to sit up. He grunted in pain, his face twisting. And I have private doctors. I'm not staying here. He looked at me. The playfulness vanished. I don't feel safe here, Nia. Not without you. And they won't let you sleep in the bed. My face heated up. Why would I sleep in the bed? Because he reached out and squeezed my hand weakly. I need to make sure you're real. I kept having nightmares that I didn't make it in time. My heart broke a little. Okay, I said softly. Let's go home. The discharge process was a nightmare of paperwork and NDAs, but money talks. Within 2 hours, we were back at the penthouse. The private elevator opened, and his security team helped him to the bedroom. It was the first time I had really seen his bedroom. It was massive. Dark gray walls, black silk sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows. It was a bachelor pad designed for solitude. But now, it was a recovery room. The doctors set up the force stand and left a bag of supplies. Painkillers, antibiotics, bandages. Call us if his fever spikes, the doctor told me. He needs to change the dressing every 6 hours. Keep the wound clean. Then they left. It was just us. Tae-Joon was propped up against a mountain of pillows. He was shirtless, the bandage wrapped around his ribs. He looked exhausted. Are you hungry? I asked, hovering by the door. Thirsty, he said. I went to the kitchen. I found some hydrolyte electrolyte water in his fridge, fancy stuff for hangovers, but good for blood loss too. I poured a glass and brought it back. I sat on the edge of the bed. I held the glass to his lips. He drank greedily, his hand coming up to cover mine to steady the glass. Slow down, I murmured. You'll choke. He finished the water and leaned back, closing his eyes. Nia. Yeah, come here. I scooted closer. Closer. I moved until my hip was touching his leg under the blanket. He opened his eyes. They were dark and tense. Take off your dress, he said. I froze. Excuse me? You have a hole in your chest, sir. I don't think you're in any condition for... Not for that, he rolled his eyes, though a small smirk tugged at his lips. It's ruined. It has my blood on it. I can smell it. It bothers me. I looked down. He was right. The emerald dress was stained with brown, rusty spots. It was stiff and uncomfortable. Go to the closet, he gestured. Take one of my shirts. Burn that dress. I went to his walk-in closet. It was bigger than my entire apartment. Rows of color-coded suits, thanks to me. I found a section of white dress shirts. I grabbed one. It was soft, high thread count Egyptian cotton. I went into the in-suit bathroom, showered the grime and fear off my body, and put on his shirt. It came down to my knees. I rolled up the sleeves. It smelled like him, sandalwood and clean laundry. When I walked back out, he was watching me. His gaze felt heavier than a physical touch. Better, he murmured. I look like I'm wearing a tent, I said, walking over to the medicine table. It's time to change your bandage. I can do it, he tried to sit up. Sit down, I pushed his shoulder gently. I'm the assistant, remember. Other duties as assigned. He let out a breath and sank back. Fine. I sanitized my hands. I picked up the scissors and the fresh gauze. My hands were shaking a little. Don't be nervous, he said softly. You can't hurt me. I don't want to hurt you, I whispered. I sat on the bed beside him. I slowly peeled back the medical tape. He hissed through his teeth but didn't move. I removed the old gauze. The wound was angry and red, stitched up with black thread. It looked painful. Seeing it made my stomach flip. This was real. This was because of me. It looks okay, I lied, my voice trembling. No infection. I took a sterile wipe and began to clean the area around the wound. I had to touch his bare skin. His chest was hard, muscular. His skin was hot to the touch. My fingers brushed against the scales of the dragon tattoo. Up close, the ink was beautiful. Intricate. Does it hurt? I asked, looking at his face. He wasn't looking at the wound. He was looking at my lips. Yes, he whispered. But not the wound. I paused, my hand resting on his chest right over his heart. I could feel it beating. Thump. 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 Why did you do it, Tae-Joon? I asked, the question finally bubbling up. Why did you come alone? Why didn't you send security? You're the boss. You don't do the dirty work. He reached up and covered my hand with his. Because, he said, his voice rough with emotion. When I heard your voice on that phone, when I heard you scream, I realized something. What? That I have spent 10 years building a kingdom, he said, his thumb stroking the back of my hand. But it is just an empty castle without you. Tears pricked my eyes. That is the cheesiest line I have ever heard. I'm on painkillers, he smiled weakly. My filter is broken. I'm telling you the truth, Nia. I don't want to be the boss if it means I can't have you. You have me, I whispered. I'm right here. Wearing your shirt. Cleaning your blood. No, he shook his head slightly. I want all of it. I want the clumsy mornings. I want the singing in the shower. I want you to organize my hit list with neon sticky notes. I want you to stay. I'm not going anywhere, I said. I finished taping the fresh bandage. There, I said, smoothing it down. Good as new. I went to pull away, but he tightened his grip on my hand. Stay, he commanded. Lie down. Tae-Joon, you're injured. There is plenty of room. Just lie with me. Please. The please broke me. The ruthless mafia don was begging for a cuddle. I carefully climbed onto the bed, staying on his uninjured side. I lay down on top of the covers, resting my head on his shoulder, careful not to touch his ribs. He sighed a long, deep sound of contentment. He draped his arm over me, pulling me closer until I was pressed against his side. If you drool on me, he mumbled, his eyes closing, I will fire you again. Shut up and sleep, boss, I whispered, tracing a pattern on his chest with my finger. The room was quiet. The city lights twinkled outside the window. For the first time in days, I felt safe. But just as I was drifting off, a thought hit me. Director Choi. He was still out there. Or was he? Tae-Joon had beaten him, but the police had arrived. What happened to him? And if he was gone, who would come next? In this world, There was always another shark waiting in the water. I looked up at Tae-Joon. He was asleep, his breathing even. He looked peaceful. I made a vow right then and there. He had taken a bullet for me. Next time, I would be ready. I wouldn't be the damsel in distress anymore. If I was going to be the queen to the Dragon King, I needed to learn how to breathe fire. But for now, I just closed my eyes and listened to his heartbeat. The weeks that followed were a blur of antibiotics, physical therapy, and a hostile takeover of my heart. Tae-Joon wasn't a good patient. He was terrible. He was a micromanager who tried to run a criminal empire from his bed while I was trying to change his dressings. "Stop typing," I scolded him one Tuesday afternoon, snatching his tablet away. "The doctor said you need to rest your arm. You're tearing your stitches." "I am not tearing them," he grumbled, reaching for the device. "I am reorganizing the logistics division. We are going completely legitimate, Nia. No more dark ports. No more smuggling. We are pivoting to tech security and AI integration. I'm looking at investing in this new AI security firm, Sentinel, to handle our data encryption." "Look at you, pivoting to tech," I smiled, placing a bowl of sliced fruit on his lap. "Does this mean no more gunfights in warehouses?" It means, he picked up a slice of apple, his eyes locking onto mine, that I have too much to lose now. I can't afford to bleed out on a concrete floor again. He wasn't just talking about the business. He was talking about us. Director Choi was gone. The police report said he was in custody pending trial, but the way Tae-Joon's security team relaxed suggested that Choi wouldn't be a problem ever again. Whether that meant prison or a hole in the desert, I didn't ask. Some things were better left as logistics. As Tae-Joon healed, something shifted between us. I wasn't just the assistant he hired to look harmless. I was the person who knew his scars. One evening, about a month after the shooting, I came home, to the penthouse, because I basically live there now, to find the living room transformed. The dark, moody bachelor pad was filled with candles. Hundreds of them. And flowers. Not red roses, too cliché. Peonies. My favorite. Bright pink and white explosions of petals covering every surface. Tae-Joon was standing by the window. He was fully dressed in a suit for the first time since the accident. No tie. Top button undone. The scar on his neck from the dragon tattoo peeked out, a reminder of the beast beneath the silk. "What is this?" I asked, dropping my bag. "We never had a first date," he said, walking toward me. His limp was almost gone. "I kidnapped you. I made you work. I dragged you to a gala. I got shot. But I never took you on a date." "I thought the noodles were a date," I teased, walking to meet him. "That was a business lunch," he corrected, stopping inches from me. He reached out and took my hands. His grip was strong again. Warm. "This is a date." He led me to the dining table. A private chef had prepared a 5-course meal. But it wasn't fancy French food. It was an elevated version of jampong, the spicy noodle soup I had ordered that first day. But this one had lobster and gold leaf. "You remembered," I smiled, feeling my throat get tight. "I remember everything about you, Nia," he said softly. "I remember the song you were singing in the shower. I remember the way you tripped over the rug in the hallway. I remember the way you looked at me when I was bleeding. We ate. We talked. Not about business. Not about enemies. We talked about my childhood, about his dream of being an architect before the family business took over. We talked about normal things. For a few hours, we were just a man and a woman, falling in love over spicy soup. After dinner, he led me out to the balcony. The wind was cool, whipping my hair around my face. The city of Seoul sprawled out below us, a glittering ocean of lights. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. My heart stopped. "Is it a ring? Is it too soon?" He pulled out a small box. But it wasn't a ring box. It was a phone box. "A phone?" I laughed, confused. "Open it." I opened the box. Inside was the newest model smartphone, the Titanium Pro, the one that cost more than my car. It was sleek, custom-colored in a soft emerald green. Turn it over, he said. I flipped the phone. Engraved on the back, in tiny, elegant letters, were the words, "Don't hang up." It has a special case, he added, looking a bit sheepish. Military-grade grip. Waterproof up to 50 meters. Drop-proof. Knee-proof. I burst out laughing, tears streaming down my face. You got me an indestructible phone? I can't stop you from being clumsy, he shrugged, stepping closer, his hands resting on my hips. But I can stop you from breaking things. And I put myself on speed dial number 1. Not do not answer? No, he shook his head. More like, answer immediately. He looked down at me, his expression turning serious. The city lights reflected in his dark eyes. Nia, he whispered. I don't know how to do this part. The soft part. I know how to conquer. I know how to fight. But this. He touched my cheek. This terrifies me. Why? I leaned into his touch. Because you are the only variable I can't control. And I don't want to control you. I just want to stand next to you. He leaned down. His lips brushed mine, a soft, tentative question. I answered it. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him down. The kiss wasn't desperate like the one at the gala. It was slow, deep. It was a promise. It tasted of wine and winter air and forever. He groaned low in his throat, lifting me up effortlessly. I wrapped my legs around his waist. He carried me inside, kicking the balcony door shut behind us. He didn't take me to the bedroom. He took me to the sofa, laying me down amidst the sea of peonies. Are you sure? He asked, hovering over me, his weight supported on his elbows so he wouldn't crush me. His eyes searched mine for any hesitation. I've been sure since you told me I missed a spot, I whispered. He smiled, a wicked, devastating smile. Then let me show you, he murmured, lowering his head to kiss the pulse point on my neck, exactly how thorough I can be. The lights in the penthouse dimmed. The city watched from outside the glass, but in here, there was only heat. There was the sound of clothes rustling, of soft sighs, and the feeling of skin on skin. I traced the dragon tattoo on his chest, kissing the scar where the bullet had hit. He kissed every inch of me, treating my body like it was the most precious territory he had ever claimed. That night, there were no cameras. No FaceTime calls. Just us. Epilogue. 1 year later. The sun was blinding. I squinted behind my oversized sunglasses, looking out at the turquoise water of the private beach in Jeju Island. The sand was white, the palm trees were swaying, and my drink had a little umbrella in it. Life was good. I checked my phone, my indestructible green phone. Calendar notification. Board meeting, 4 p.m., Zoom. I swiped it away. I was on vacation. The board could wait. I wasn't just the assistant anymore. I was the chief creative officer of Kong Global. We had successfully rebranded. No more mafia rumors, mostly. We were a legitimate tech giant now. And I was also Mrs. Kang. I looked down at the massive diamond on my finger. It sparkled so hard it was practically a safety hazard. Babe? I called out. No answer. Tae-Joon was supposed to be getting massages, but he had probably snuck off to take a business call. Old habits died hard. I stood up, brushing the sand off my bikini. I needed to cool off. I walked back to our private villa. It was a stunning glass structure nestled in the cliffs. I went into the bathroom. It was huge, with an open-air rainfall shower that looked out over the ocean. I turned the water on. It was perfect. I stepped in, letting the cool spray wash away the salt and sand. I closed my eyes and started humming. It was that same song, the one from the first night. I couldn't help it. It was catchy. I reached for the shampoo. My hand slippery with soap, I grabbed my phone from the ledge to change the music playlist. Slippery hands. Wet phone. Slip. Whoa. I juggled it. I didn't drop it this time. The grip case worked. But my thumb hit a button. Incoming FaceTime request. I froze. I looked at the screen. The contact photo was a picture I had taken of him sleeping. Hubby Tae-Joon. I answered it. The screen lit up. Tae-Joon was on the screen. He was wearing a white linen shirt, unbuttoned, looking tan and relaxed. But he wasn't far away. I could see the background of his video. It was the bedroom door of our villa. "Where are you?" I laughed, wiping water from my eyes. "Turn around." His voice came through the phone speaker and also from the doorway behind me. I spun around. He was leaning against the door frame of the bathroom, phone in hand, watching me through the glass wall of the shower. The same smirk from a year ago was playing on his lips. "You're FaceTiming me from 10 feet away?" I asked, putting my hands on my hips. "I like the view better on high definition," he said, walking into the bathroom. He set his phone down on the counter. He didn't care about the water. He walked right into the shower with me, fully clothed in his expensive linen shirt. "You're getting wet," I shrieked, laughing as the spray soaked him instantly. The white fabric became transparent, revealing the dragon tattoo underneath. "I don't care," he murmured, pulling me against him. His wet clothes clung to us, cold water mixing with body heat. He pushed my wet hair back from my face. "Happy anniversary, Nia." "You ruined your shirt," I smiled up at him. "I can buy a new shirt," he said, his eyes dark and hungry. "But I can't buy this moment." He leaned down. "And by the way," he whispered against my lips, "you missed a spot again." "Where?" "Here." He kissed me. A deep, wet, passionate kiss under the falling water. The phone on the counter was still connected. On the screen, you could see the two of us, wrapped in each other's arms, the steam rising around us, the water falling like rain. He reached out blindly and tapped the screen. Call ended. Thank you so much for watching this story. If your heart is racing, if you are swooning, or if you just want your own Korean Mafia boss to buy you spicy noodles, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Do not be like Nia and accidentally swipe past it. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the drama, and leave a comment down below, Team Tae-Joon or Team Noodles, and where you are watching from. I read every single comment, and I want to know what kind of story you want me to write next. Should we do a runaway princess? A bodyguard romance? Let me know. Until next time, keep your phones dry and your standards high. Bye.